Thanks for tuning into the Realtor Moms podcast. We are Tasha and Jamie, full-time realtors and admittedly average moms. This is how we sell homes and try to keep our kids alive.
Thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking about how to open house on the Realtor Moms podcast. Both tips for potential buyers who are looking at just breaking into the market, or even if you've been looking for a long time, and some suggestions for sellers how to prepare for those open houses. So Tasha, tell me what is kind of one of the first things that you would suggest to someone who was thinking about buying a house and wanted to go to their first open?
Well, if I'm working with my clients, one thing I tell them is to make sure to kind of stay a little tight-lipped. I want to make sure that they don't give away how much they love a home if they're prepared to make an offer. Right. And we don't know who's sitting in that open house, if that's the listing agent or if there's another agent that will tell the listing agent all of that information that you share. So
that's a really good point. Sometimes the agent in the house is not actually the listing agent. Sometimes the listing agent has multiple houses open and they can't be in two places at one time.
Yes.
Or other times they're out of town, or maybe there's another agent who just said, gosh, this is my neighborhood, or boy, I really love that house. I would love to have an open house there for these sellers. So sometimes the listing agent is not actually the agent that's hosting the open. And you've got a really great point. If you've got buyers who are really interested, they can definitely express some enjoyment of the house and appreciation for it, but probably not run up to that agent and say, we love it so much, we're going to write an offer today. We just can't live without this house.
My first year in the business, I had a couple that decided that they wanted to write an offer, and I was hosting for another agent, and they shared what their bottom line was. And I then went and shared it. It was my responsibility to share it with the listing agent that let me host the open house. Right. And at that moment, he knew what they were prepared and willing to pay. Right.
It's important to know that we, as the agent representing the house, have to share all the feedback with the sellers. That's our job. It's the open house is just as much a benefit for the seller to see what kind of feedback is received. So if somebody comes running up to us like they did for you and said, oh my gosh, we'd pay even more than they're asking, that's kind of something that we need to share with the sellers of the house. So along with the feedback, maybe that's the negative feedback. Oh my gosh, like you were saying, there's a red wall. There's this red wall and everybody really dislikes the red wall.
And if you keep hearing that, we want to share that, because if there's something that they can easily change or fix in the home, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity and the information to hear that this is an issue that they could easily change, and then maximize their potential for getting their home sold.
Right. So if you find those things at an open house that are real turnoffs, we appreciate constructive criticism. Just be a little courteous about it too. There are others in the house, potentially. There might be more than one guest at a time, and it just wouldn't be appropriate to loudly shout out your distaste in light fixtures. But yeah, come and let us know. We really appreciate your feedback.
Good and bad. It's helpful to provide that to sellers. They're opening their house up for people to take a look, and that feedback is essential for them to know where they're standing in terms of market feedback. So
how about for someone who is not a buyer? They're just, oh my gosh, they love the neighborhood, they were out for a walk, they're not even interested in buying. Maybe they're the neighbor, maybe they're from 3 blocks away and they're just walking by and see the sign. Are they invited in?
I would definitely say yes.
Yeah,
I like to see. I would rather sit in an open house with people coming in than sitting there twiddling my thumbs. So I will definitely say I always appreciate people coming in. It keeps me entertained, and it keeps me talking to people. Yeah. And I love to see people coming in. I really love to show off the homes that I'm in, and I think it's important, and I appreciate it. What about you, Jamie?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the one thing that I'll suggest for people is, go ahead, come on in, and then just tell us, hey, look, I'm not a buyer, but I was out for a walk, or I'm the neighbor that lives next door and I'm not moving, but I've always wondered what it looks like in here. we're totally cool with that. And we will not, bug you or pester you about moving or buying or selling. Just come in and say, hey, I'm just really interested in seeing what this house looks like. And we love that. We absolutely love that. And you're more than welcome to come in. Just like Tasha said, we'd rather sit there with anybody than nobody.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And do know that when you're walking through, you have, it's okay to look in cabinets and drawers and closets to get a feel for the space. So please know that you have the right to do that. Yep. And just kind of on a courteous note, make sure to kind of take off your shoes. And if there is a sign-in sheet to, please sign in. We, as a seller, we want to make sure that, if they ask for a sign-in sheet, that they know who's coming through. That's just a respectable thing to do.
Right. It's not inappropriate for a seller to say, yes, I'd love to have an open house, but it would make me feel more comfortable if I at least had the names of the people that were coming through. And it's also helpful for the agent. Maybe, it can be beneficial for the buyer that walks through too. Right on there, most sign-in sheets will have a checkbox. If you're already working with a realtor, we won't bother you or anything like that, but we might still send you a thank you card. Thanks for coming. And, hey, this particular item has changed about the house thanks to feedback from that open, and we can inform you or inform your agent of that. Some agents even send out little tokens of thanks, like a random free car wash or a cup of coffee. So please sign in if there is a sign-in sheet there. Give us your real name. We don't want to bother you any more than you want to be bothered. We just want to respect the wishes of the seller.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then, when it comes to sellers, some tips that we can give to get your house ready for an open house is, make sure not to be there.
It sounds obvious, but it's important.
It's important. If people are coming through, they want to make sure they want to be a little anonymous. They don't want to walk through if a seller's there. They want
to. Nothing stifles a showing appointment or an open house more than feeling like you're being watched the whole time you're there. So
exactly.
If you are the seller, kindly give us that 1.5 or 3 hour window or whatever it is, and make yourself scarce so that buyers feel comfortable enough to walk around at their own pace inside the house.
The next tip I will give to sellers is to make sure to, clean your house. How you live is not how you sell. And, it's just a really important piece to make sure your house is clean and you have it in the best, looking in the best light possible. I always say kind of prepare how you would for that Christmas holiday with your family.
Right. Except for the food part.
Except for the food part. Yes, except for the food part. So
on that day, on that open house day, try to, maybe make cereal for breakfast.
Not that bacon smell that kind of permeates every room of the house. Not that, there's some people like my 10-year-old daughter that loves bacon in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But some people, vegetarians, they may not like that smell. And we want to appeal to the masses, not just to a small group.
Have some room air fresheners are just fine, but stay away from doing a whole lot of cooking, baking, or anything that has a really strong smell, just because it can be off-putting to some folks more so than others. So
I would say except for chocolate chip cookies. That's always a good
chocolate chip cookies. I have never had anybody come in and complain that it smelled like chocolate chip cookies. So yeah, go crazy on the cookies. But yeah, main course meals sometimes can leave a smell in the house, and we just want it to smell fresh. That's all.
Yeah, perfect.
Another thing we want to tell you to do if you're the seller and you're preparing for an open house or even preparing for a sale in general is stash away, hide away, pack away your valuables, your jewelry, your prescriptions. If you have firearms, get them packed up, get them out of the way, get them out of sight. We would hate for something to happen for them to get stolen. And the reality in our world is that sometimes that happens, and I haven't had it happen personally, but
I haven't either, but we're only one person in an open house, and if you have large groups coming through,
we can't be with them all.
We can't be in every room and with everyone at the same time.
Even if it's just a couple that comes in and maybe one goes upstairs and one goes down, we can only go with one of them.
Exactly.
We don't really know what the other person is doing. So, most people are really good. We don't want to scare anybody off, but it's just better to be safe than sorry. So store those things away before your open house.
And one thing I will say, it's okay to bring your kids.
Yeah, kids are welcome at an open house. keep them with you, keep them occupied at all times. So
make sure their shoes go, get taken off.
Yeah, but
don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't not come just because little Jane or little John is with you. Bring them along. They are welcome to come.
I see kids come through open houses all the time, and sometimes what I may do is try and help the parents look through by trying to entertain the kids, just to try and make things a little easier for them. Right. And that's one thing I know many of us realtors do, is just try to make it as easygoing as possible for people trying to take a look. So.
Yes. One other suggestion we have for the seller of the home that's about to have the open house is, if you can, bundle up those pets and take them with you when you go. That's really helpful too. Some little pups can be sort of distracting, or maybe they bark. We don't want to make the pets uncomfortable. We don't want to make a buyer uncomfortable. And we also don't want to distract the buyers from the features of the house by having them play with the adorable kittens.
Exactly.
If you can, and it's not always possible, we totally understand that. But if you can, we would love to have you take your pets out of the house for the open, if and when possible. So that's it. Those are our list. That's our suggestions on how to open house.
Thank you for listening. Replay or hear more episodes at RealtorMomsPodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram with #RealtorMomsPodcast.
This podcast is produced by Jamie R. Swenson and Tasha Barrett of Park Company Realtors, 28 North 10th Street, Fargo, North Dakota, 58102.